Welcome to the Independent Roadmap. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is John Scheer, RVP with MIAA, and I'm joined today by my other co-host, James Robert, another RVP with MIAA. Today we're going to have a kind of a unique situation here because James, as many of you may or may not know, is an RVP, as we talked about with MIAA, but he's also an agency owner. So today we're going to have kind of a unique perspective on what it is like for the first 3 to 6 months when you come on board. So James, I'll let you take it over and tell us, what is it like the first 3 to 6 months when you become a member with SIAA and MIAA?
John, if I had to sum it up in one word, I think it would be chaos. Let's get into it. So John, my agency is in Lee Summit, Missouri. We signed up in June of 2025 with MIAA. And there are a lot of things that we talk about on this podcast and that you and I talk about with our people we're trying to recruit into MIAA. And so this is a great topic to talk about. You know, we've talked about who is MIAA, who is SIAA. We've talked about, all the things you need to start your agency, those anticipated costs, but now you signed the contract and you're ready to get started on day one. What can you expect? And that's exactly what I think we're going to talk about today. So the very first thing, John, as soon as someone gets signed on, you and I are getting them connected with the MIAA onboarding specialist. And then we also are connecting them, or we have already connected them with the agency growth coach. And so these two people are very important to the first really 6 months into the relationship with us. Let's talk about the onboarding specialist. So once you're assigned the onboarding specialist, John, the first thing from day one that's going to happen is you can expect a few emails. One, we're going to get you connected to our intranet called the SIAA Connect. So our Connect site, John, is where people will be able to go out and start working towards getting some direct appointments with wholesalers, with Haggerty, just a number of carriers inside of our marketplace. And that marketplace, there's probably over 40 vendors that they can go out and get direct access on their own starting day one. And so that's really important. The next thing, John, they're going to get an email and invitation to the EZLynx Rater. And so the Rater is where you input everything into one system. So it could be, everything you need to get an auto quote, a homeowner's quote, and maybe a dwelling fire quote. And so you input all this information, and then you hit submit to carriers, and you're going to get returned back 6 or 7 different quotes, and you'll see the rates pretty quickly. And that, John, is how they access what we refer to as our Access Plus. And so any agency that joins MIAA can start writing business from day one with us through the Access Plus. And so once you get that rate return, you have a carrier that looks really strong. You'll hit submit or finalize premium. John, that goes into the Access Plus department. And the Access Plus team will return quotes back to your agency. And we do that through Connect. And so that's why it's important that you have Connect. You have immediate access to our Access Plus team. So John, in addition to personal lines immediate access, they got immediate access to our full breadth of commercial lines carriers as well. That's available through Access Plus. So they can submit online through 2 different methods for commercial policies. The first one is through Access Plus. There's a submission button there, and you'll need to upload ACORD forms, loss runs. The entire submission will need to get entered through there. And so that's available. The other one is a program called Nexure. And Nexure is the SIAA agency management system that houses everything. Through that process, they can actually do quotes as well. And that's where I recommend that new agents start at to really submit access or business to Access Plus. And so with our personal lines, John, they can anticipate getting quotes back. I've seen this personally. If you submit it early enough in the day, you'll get quotes back that day. If you submit it later in the afternoon, you'll get quotes first thing in the morning. Our Access Plus team, we have a team that's dedicated just to MIAA. And they are all on the East Coast, and so they're an hour ahead of us. But they're very quick to return personal lines quotes. Now, on the commercial lines, things are different, and there might be some back and forth. There could be a call that goes out to the agency owner or the producer asking more questions to make sure that our Access Plus team truly understands what they're looking at. And then they'll go to the market. And on commercial lines, John, sometimes these markets that are people can go and do online quoting, and that will return a quote back pretty quickly. And sometimes they have to submit accords and to the underwriter. It really just depends on the risk. There's a lot more nuance to commercial. And so getting quotes back on commercial can be time consuming, but the practice, what their standard practice is pretty normal. And so they can start day one with us, John, getting quotes and binding business through our Access Plus team.
No, that's interesting, James, that they have that outlet and they have that easy of access starting on day one. One question that comes up that when I think about that is, where are you putting all this information? One of the things I think would be one of the main things would be an agency management system. So explain on the agency management side, when you get this information, what should be looking at when you want to look at an agency management system? Because obviously this is going to be the lifeblood of the agency.
John, it's a good question. The agency management system is going to be something that houses all the policy information. So as soon as you sign up with us, you're going to want to, and you get those first direct appointments, you're going to sign up with a company called Ivans Download. Ivans works in the background. If you bind a policy with a carrier, that policy will download into your agency management system. So you'll have all the information related to the policy in the agency management system. That's also where the truth lies for documentation of notes, phone calls, anything that you do inside the agency management system for that particular client. So anytime you have a conversation, you're documenting your agency management system. Yep. If you need to send out accord forms or certificates of insurance or binders or any of those types of things that is needed, the agency management system is going to be there to take care of all of that stuff. So an agency management system, it's critical to get, especially once you start binding policies, because you need to be able to keep track of it.
That's some great input. So you have the ability to quote, you have the agency management system so you can keep track of the quotes and who you're quoting. The next piece I would say it has to be, what's your marketing plan? What are some things that could be utilized when you're going out there and considering your marketing plan? Because now it's kind of unique because you are the service. You are what you're selling. You're selling yourself in essence.
John, so when you come on board, we've got two classes that I do recommend that new agencies start with. The first one is a foundation, so agency foundation course. And this is really to help you establish that marketing plan. And John, you and I, through our recruiting process, have already looked at a business plan. We've already had conversations around that. But the agency foundation is really about setting up your agency to be structured correctly from the beginning, so you build it on firm ground. And so that foundation course is really important. Second thing, John, that we have available is our Business Insurance Advantage course, or BIA. And that is available to all of our agencies as well. And that is something very similar to the foundations course, but it is specific towards commercial insurance. And so that is a 7-week program, talks about how to market yourself, how to get out there, and how to get going with things that are related to commercial insurance. John, the unique thing is also some of our carriers, that is a fast track to getting carrier appointments on the commercial side, is if you take that BIA course. And so, John, the onboarding specialist helps with that. Also, I think it's important to note at this point too, you're also in regular communications with your agency growth coach. And the agency growth coach, their number one role is to be supportive and to help you grow your agency to the way you want your agency to go. So we, John, when I say we, like you and I, the growth coach, we understand kind of like what the dream is, what the vision is for that insurance agency owner. And then the growth coach is really that foundational support that helps them get to where they want to go. So if they want to be that 3 million, they want to be that 5 million in premium agency, the growth coach is there to help with that. And so running through, they have experience with, you need to get out there, you need to get leads. They've got experience with joining networking groups. They've got experience with B&I. They've got experience with understanding how online, how to go out and buy leads and those sorts of things. So they are there for a resource to help you really get out there and get going. But a lot of this, John, you and I have taken a lot of this on really when we talk about the business plan with people. We make sure that they understand how are you gonna get this thing going, because there's a lot to it, but you definitely need to get going.
No, and absolutely. And you brought up a good point. Through this entire process, we don't leave you by yourself. We help you through the process, whether it's the onboarding, the agency growth coach, whether it's preliminary before you become a member. We do not leave you alone. We help you along the way, because going into and starting your own agency, it's a big climb. You got to be able to climb up to it. You got to know what the expectations are.
John, it's daunting. I was a producer for 6 or 7 years before starting my own agency. And I thought I had a lot of this stuff down, but there's so much that happens in the background. All this onboarding stuff with Connect, with Nexture, with getting EZLynx, with talking about your agency management system. But there's so much more. You've got to get your email set up. You got to think through a phone system and how are you going to use your phones? How are you going to connect all this together? What does you bind that first client, John, and like, what does the welcoming look like that goes out to your insured? How do you want to be perceived in the marketplace? You're setting up your Google My Business page or Google Business profile. You're setting up websites, making sure your emails are working correctly. There is a lot that goes on. And, that's where we have the advantage. We support our agency members through that process with you and I, and then they're also with the onboarding, and they're also with the agency growth coach.
James, you've talked about the process. The one thing that always comes up is, and I just had this the other day with a new member that came on board, how do you go about what's the process of getting appointed with a carrier? Can you kind of explain that briefly?
John, that really is like you're doing everything in conjunction, and you're also working to try to get carrier appointments, because those carrier appointments really are the lifeblood of the agency. And I think when you and I are recruiting, John, we talk about, we want 98% of that business to be done through direct appointments. And so that direct appointment process, John, what I do, what our agency growth coaches are doing, when that carrier or when that new agency comes on, John, we're going out and we're having conversations with our territory marketing reps. So maybe it's Liberty Mutual, maybe it's Travelers, maybe it's Nationwide, whatever the game plan was from the beginning. On day one or day two, the agency growth coaches, you and I, John, as recruiters, we're out there hitting the pavement, having conversations with our territory reps about your agency. So that's why we need so much information. That's why we need to understand your business plan, understand your model, understand what you're wanting to do, because we support and we help go out and establish those relationships with the carriers. So we go and advocate on your behalf. That's the first thing. And then the carrier marketing rep, John, is going to go out and they're going to connect with you. They might show up at your office. It might be a Teams call. It might just be a phone call. Every carrier rep is slightly different in their approach, but they're going to come to you and they're going to have a conversation about your agency. And so they're going to want to know, what is your business plan? And that's one thing that we need up front. They're also going to want it. So what is the business plan? How do you plan to grow this? And then they're going to talk to you about your experience, understanding your agency, understanding how you can support them and how they can support you, because it's a mutual relationship. And so they say, yes, John, I think we can move forward with your agency. At that point, there's a little bit of paperwork that you're going to have to get sent into the carrier, and every carrier is just slightly different in their approach on how they get this paperwork. But generally, it's going to be an application. They're going to do background checks on the agency as well as you as the owner and any producer. And then, John, that process to actually get the appointment can take 4 to 6, maybe even up to 8 weeks for the process to actually follow through until you can get that appointment. The reason that it could take 4 to 8 weeks, John, really is because we go out, we advocate on your behalf. Then there's a phone conversation with you as the agency owner. The carrier or the territory rep is going back and talking to their manager, getting approval for this oftentimes. And then it's going into the back office, if you will, of these carriers. And so they're supporting, the back office really is supporting nationwide. And so sometimes that process can take a number of weeks. And then John, you work and they work and everything happens, kind of, it all comes together at some point and you get that direct appointment. And with us, the direct appointment, John, I think is important to note that it is between the carrier and the agency. It's not with MIAA or SIAA. The appointment is with the agency and the carrier. And so once you get that, you're getting logins, you're getting everything that you need, and you're able to go out and quote and bind business immediately.
No, that's great information, James. I know we're running a little bit short on time here, so if you have any further questions about this or any other of our episodes on the independent roadmap, feel free, you can get a hold of me at 402-852-8486. I'm on LinkedIn. It's John Scheer, Scheer. James, if they have questions for you, what's the best way to get a hold of you at?
John, you can reach me by my cell phone, 816-401-7417, or you can find me on LinkedIn as well, James Roberts-KC, and look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks for your time, James. Have an incredible day.